They got to play boring. When Penn State plays boring, they usually play pretty well, like you said, Coach. You know the defense pretty well. They score enough. They don't really score enough to outduel people, but I think if they can just stick to their identity, play the defense, and timely turnovers, I think that's a big thing for do timely turnovers.
Greetings and salutations, and welcome to the Odd Coaches Podcast. I am your host, Dr. Keith Adams, and on today's Throwdown Thursday edition, we are all about the college football playoff semifinal previews. In segment one, we're going to talk from an administrative standpoint about handling real-life situations. In segment two, we will do our CFP semifinal preview. And in segment three, we got our referee here because there was some complaining, some moaning about some calls, and we'll also have some additional news and notes about college football. But first, unspeakable tragedy at the Sugar Bowl. And we actually had our own Notre Dame correspondent, Jake Schaller, on site, big Notre Dame guy. And he had mentioned that the mood in the city was kind of weird. Around the French Quarter, it was somber. But at the stadium, although there were fewer people there, it was kind of like a normal game. So here's some thoughts about playing the game. The semifinals are on Thursday, January 9th. So they played the game on a Thursday. So technically to the letter, you had a 7-day period. Penn State had already played, though, so that was an issue. And there was questions about fairness. However, as you will hear anybody in the schools will tell you, safety and security are our number one priorities. So they provided extra security. But Robert, our favorite administrator, in your opinion, should they have even played the game? What are you even thinking about playing?
I don't know how you don't play the game. I think that the wait, that the time that they took, both out of respect for the victims and also to ensure safety and security, I think the time that they took was appropriate. It probably would have been more appropriate to not play, but at this point, with the amount of money involved, they're not playing. So that I think they did the best they could. I think what they did was appropriate. They honored the victims. And I think that, that they did the best they could. They made the best out of a bad situation, in my opinion.
Okay. Mike, your coach, you had to deal with some of these type of situations in terms of during COVID when we had this situation. And of course, loss of life is much more important. But how do you think they handled the situation?
I agree. I think they did the best they could. They've got a schedule. There's a lot of money involved. There's things beyond life, right? Like it's a business, and they had to treat it like a business. And whatever they did, they were going to get criticized for. So I think this was realistically the best thing they could do.
Okay. So now with that being said, you now have time. And the semifinal games will not be moved. And this comes out on the day of the semifinal game, but should they have moved them? So the college football playoffs will not flip the days and the times of the Cotton Bowl and the Orange Bowl, although Greg Sankey asked them politely. Penn State got extra time to prepare for Notre Dame. It's something that could have happened, but it is a logistical nightmare. According to the CFP executive director, they're not going to flip the games. The concession was made by moving the semifinal game one day, and that's all. I mean, the Sugar Bowl one day, and that's all they're going to do. So now, Robert, I'm tagging back to you. Should they flip the games, or hey, man, you got a week to prepare? Good luck to you and Godspeed.
I mean, they made the request, and the worst that could happen is they said no, which they did. I don't buy that it's the logistical nightmare that the CFP is making it out to be. I think they've spent their money, and they, in terms of here's what we're doing for promotional materials, ad materials, press conferences, all the things. And I just feel like they're not interested in trying to make any changes for that purpose, so that everything is fair, because as we all know, life is not fair. It's not. And so they'll deal with it. In my opinion, it's not going to make a difference in the outcome of that game, but that's for next segment. But I'm fine with it not changing. I think they'll figure it out. It'll be fine.
All right. Now, Mike, you have been a part of schedule changes. Okay. So now we're back to a playing field. It snowed one day, it rained one day. Make up this, don't make up that. So you've been in those conversations. Did they get it right in terms of not flipping the games?
I mean, they should have flipped the game. It would have been it's such an easy fix, and then there's no discussion right now. So they should have flipped the game. But that being said, they got a week. So what? James Franklin got an extra 24 hours to look at the tape. That hasn't scared any ranked team ever. So no excuses, right? That's my take there. And the other thing is, in the NFL, they make you play on Thursday, on Saturday, on Friday, on Sunday. They'll make you play on Monday. They'll make you play on Tuesday. Soon they'll make you play on Wednesday, and then say, you know what, you should play on Friday too. That's going to come if they can make some extra money. So in the professional league, which is where a lot of these players are going to go, they're going to have to get used to all sorts of schedules. So it's not going to affect this game in the slightest.
All right. And joining us is Captain for Life, Will Cotton. Will, they had an opportunity to move the game after the tragedy at the Sugar Bowl. Greg Sankey, the SEC commissioner, politely asked, and as Robert so eloquently said, as we do in education, ask whatever you want, but the answer is no. But at least you asked, so there's your courage. Should they have flipped the game, Will, or, man, go play? Because, again, as a player, you've been a part of, we've got to change this, we've got to change that, we've got short notice. Go be wherever you're told to be and go play. What do you think, Will?
Well, we have a history as a country. I mean, I think morally would say, postpone the game. But traditionally and historically, we rebound ourselves with sports. I mean, I remember when 9/11 happened, no sports was canceled. In fact, people came together and saw that, and they actually kind of, use that as kind of a beacon. So yeah, I think in some way football is ingrained into our actual our country. So when we have tragedies, when we have things that happen, we kind of look and lean on sports for comfort. The players do it because so they can get something to not focus on. They're focusing the game. The fans, and it's not sort of and at the same time, it's kind of messed up because we kind of forget of what happened. We don't want to lose and forget and make change of policies and things like that. But, it's kind of like, rinse, wash, and repeat. A tragedy happens, prayer, oh my gosh, but are the Commanders playing this weekend? Or, so I understand both sides. I think that's just part of America. I think when things happen, we kind of shovel it under the rug, and part of that is finding comfort in sports. So I think there's no wrong answer. Because at the end of the day, people are moving on with their lives. But I do think at some point you have to acknowledge what happened. And if you want real change, then you can't focus and look at, SEC commissioners and things like that. So.
All right. And with that, and in segment 2, we're going to talk about the game on the field. We're going to preview both semifinals, and we'll see if people believe in Penn State. Stop it, Robert. We'll be right back. Yeah, Coach's Podcast. This is Dr. Keith Adams, president of the CKA Save Project and author of Finding the Balance, My Personal Journey to Academic and Athletic Success. This book is your key to unlocking the secrets of being a successful student athlete. Drawing from my 30-year career as a teacher and coach, this instructional guide offers a unique perspective on achieving success in both academics and athletics. With over 15 personal stories and insightful anecdotes, Finding the Balance is a must-read for student athletes, parents, coaches, teachers, and administrators. Visit www.ckasafeproject.org to get your copy and start finding the balance today. Welcome back to the Odd Coaches Podcast in segment 2. We are here. We are at the college football Final Four, so to speak, the Capital One Orange Bowl, Thursday, January 9th, Penn State versus Notre Dame. Let me get my editorial comments out of the way before the fellas bring it back to football. The BCA is real to me. The BCA, for those who are new, stands for the Black Coaches Association, and people like John Thompson, Eddie Robinson, Tony Dungy, Lovie Smith, all are mentors to me. And we had meetings at the Final Fours all throughout my career. So I'm very excited about the opportunity that we didn't think was going to come in terms of a person of African-American descent, because I know Marcus Freeman's mom is Korean, and we're not mad at any of that, has an opportunity to win a football national championship. So shout out to the BCA. Now, with that being said, let's get to the game itself, and I'm going to start with Penn State first. How can Penn State win? They've got to make Notre Dame one-dimensional. They got to take away the running game and force Notre Dame's quarterback, who's not very good, to make a lot of passes. And if Penn State can do that, Penn State has a chance to win. Will, what are you thinking about Penn State and their chance to win? Your thoughts, sir?
They got to play boring. When Penn State plays boring, they usually play pretty well. Like you said, Coach, you know, the defense pretty well. They score enough. They don't really score enough to outduel people. But I think if they can just stick to their identity, play the defense, and timely turnovers. I think that's a big thing for it to do. Timely turnovers. They can win. I think Notre Dame is not in a different. I don't think they're in a different class. I think it'll be tough. They have to kind of get that monkey off their back, though. That's the biggest thing for them. Believe that they can win. Believe that they can excel. Believe that they can be the champions. Because I think in the past, I think that's what kind of killed them in the Big Ten, at least. But now they have a chance. So the path isn't exactly what they want. They may end up going against Ohio State, and then all of a sudden you're back in the same situation. But I think if they play their game, stick to their identity, you know, keep it very boring, unfortunately for us, they can come out with a win.
All right, Robert, you are our voice of reason, and you have told me for 3 years to stop this. It's your fault. Does Penn State have a good shot of winning this thing, Robert? What do you think?
I don't think so. I'm still not buying. I mean, Will's right in the sense that if Penn State is able to play boring and make Notre Dame turn the ball over, that's their best chance to win. You know, Notre Dame is not Boise, and I don't think they can shut down Notre Dame the way they shut down Boise. I think their defense is good, but I don't think they're good enough to do that. I just think Notre Dame at this point in the season is better, and you have two teams that have similar identities that play a similar way, and Notre Dame is better at it. And still not buying, man. I'm still not buying.
All right, Mike King, James Franklin Fan Club captain and president, sarcastically said, Penn State got a shot to beat Notre Dame.
I think Penn State has a really good shot to beat Notre Dame. And one of the reasons is this game reminds me of the AFC championship games in the early 1990s when no one cared because they were going to lose in the next game. And that's what this game is. And that's why Penn State's got a chance, because the winner of this game is losing by 20. They're losing by 20 to Texas. They're losing by 20 to Ohio State. So Penn State's got a great chance because they were given a dream schedule, just like, you know, Notre Dame's good. Notre Dame's probably equally good. But Notre Dame doesn't scare anybody. They just don't. Penn State, if you look at Penn State and Notre Dame's rosters, I would say Penn State's got the best three individual people. Abdul Carter is ridiculous. He's going to be the best player there by a mile to me. Every time I watch him and the bend that he has and the way he can get to the quarterback, he could wreck the game just by himself. And that tight end that Penn State has, I mean, he's not Brock Bowers because I don't think anyone's Brock Bowers, but boy, is he good. So yeah, I think Penn State can win. And Drew Aller, whatever he is. Boy, he's the biggest boom bust quarterback I've ever seen. Because when you watch him play, and sometimes you watch him, and it's like, holy crap, this guy's an NFL star. Then you watch the next play and you go, oh, this guy's not going to be in the CFL. He's terrible. I understand nothing about him,
Chinese
but
football league,
when
not
he's
even
on,
Canadian.
he is on. So give me Penn State.
All right.
Notre Dame has a Duke quarterback. We can't ignore that. They have a Duke quarterback.
Okay. All right. So my final thoughts on the game: the Irish have the better kicker, and he can kick over 40 yards, and it actually goes through. So Notre Dame can clean up the penalties. They got a good shot. But hey, let's go watch the game, which takes us to Friday, January 10th, the Cotton Bowl, the Goodyear Cotton Bowl. In Robert's neck of the woods in Texas. So let's look at Texas. How can Texas win? They have the number one ranked defense in the country for most of the season. And you saw their defense finally come through against Arizona State. However, I will not be like the national media. I will tell you the truth. Texas has played absolutely no one on a regular basis. So it's hard to get excited about a team that haven't played anybody. And then you've got Ohio State and Ryan Day, and he's got a chip on his shoulder, and he's got a little saltiness to him. And I'm very excited about watching them go head up. Robert, you're in Texas. What's the buzz? Talk to us. Tell the national audience how they're feeling down there.
Well, I can tell you ticket prices are through the roof. And seats at Jerry World are not cheap to begin with. But ticket prices are through the roof. The game will be well attended, and there will be represented. Both teams will be well represented. I think that I felt like watching that Texas Arizona State game for the vast majority of the game. Texas was absolutely indifferent to the proceedings. It felt like they did not care. And they turned it on when they needed to make a play, with the exception of, plays involving Cam Scatterboo. That guy's legit. And, he's going to make a living on Sundays for the sole reason that nobody can tackle him. It doesn't matter what he runs in the 40. You have to be able to get him on the ground. And he's tough to get on the ground. Texas is going to have to play a lot better to beat Ohio State. They're going to have to play a lot better up front. I don't think they can do it. Their offensive line got a little more dinged up than they already were against Arizona State. It would not shock me at all if Ohio State does to them what they did to Oregon.
All right. Cotton Man, Texas, Ohio State, for the opportunity to play for a national championship. What do you got, sir?
I think Ohio State, like you said, Coach, I think Ohio State has a chip on the shoulder. I think they've seen the clippings. I think they've listened to our show. I think they're pretty upset. I think Ryan Day has been getting a lot of flack. Can't win the big one. Can't beat Michigan. You're going to lose your job. A lot of that stuff will either crumble a person, or they will become intrinsic, and they will internally start to focus. Let me focus on myself. Let me focus. It happens all the time. Men will lose their girlfriends, and then they hit the gym, and then they just focusing on. So when things happen like that, I think Ohio State feel a little upset. It's like, look, hey, we've been a top 5 program for the last 10 years. We've lost a couple games, and all of a sudden people are saying we're bad, we can't win, things like that. I think they look at Texas and they're like, oh, just walk in here and think you're just going to be the best team in the country, and you're going to come. It's your first time in the playoff. Who are you? Like, you've never been here. Like, what are you talking about? And I think these guys are upset. And I think these guys, they showed Oregon. They say, look, that fluke stuff ain't going to win next time. You're not going to win by catching a penalty. We're going to beat your yeah, we're gonna whoop
A double crooked letter as the road.
Oh man. And I think Texas is the same thing. I think Texas you can't just wake up and you can wake up and beat in Arizona State. I don't know if you're good enough to wake up halfway through the game, you're going to beat Ohio State. It's just a different beat. Their athletes can score a lot faster than Arizona State. There's no scataboos who are going to, hold up the, eat up the clock in, 2-3 minute drives and things like that, but it'll be interesting. I think Texas was ready for Ohio State. I think they overlooked Arizona State, which is the game that we got. So hopefully they're bringing themselves up for okay, well, we knew we were going to beat them. Now we're going to take the real dogs and let's see what's going on. But this will be their first test for the season. And I don't know if that's when you want to have your first test.
All right, Mike King. I think Quinn Ewers is starting, so they're not playing their best quarterback. But what do you think about Ohio State, Texas? Please don't put that boy in there. I think I'm going to bet on Ohio State. What do you think?
I just think it's unfair that Ohio State goes from Marvin Harrison Jr. to a freshman wide receiver who would go number 1 of the draft this year if he was allowed. How does that happen? That you just go from one guy to the next, and they have a first-round wide receiver this year, senior. So they're just loaded at that position like always. But Texas corners are pretty good. They've got the PFF highest-rated corner of the year, who's a fringe first-round talent. That's the matchup that I want to see, the Texas corners against those great Ohio State wide receivers. I don't trust Quinn Ewers. I can't pick Texas because I don't trust him. But he's got the most to play for of anybody that's going to be playing, because he's got to prove that he deserves to go somewhere in the first round, and I don't see it. So He's got the motivation, but I just think Ohio State recruits at such a different level that it doesn't matter how bad day is. I think they have the talent to win. I just wish this game was the next game, because this is the championship we deserve, not to see one of these teams just destroy the next team.
Well,
right. Go ahead, Rob.
Let me before we finish, let me just add this. So we have some neighbors that are very fervent Ohio State fans, and they will be in Dallas for this game. And I asked them, I said, does winning the national championship absolve you of losing to Michigan? And they said, absolutely not.
They need to get they need to fix the priorities. That's dumb. That's dumb.
We're just
reporting the news.
Throw that out there, because
you can let them know that if the Giants go 0-6 in the NFC East but make the playoffs and win the Super Bowl, that's even funnier to me. I make fun of the fans of those teams more. So Ohio State wins, they go to their Michigan fans and they go, "You losers couldn't even make the playoff." Like that. No, tell them they're wrong.
Okay. All right. So with that, it's segment 3. We've got some news and notes in college football, and we have to educate you on what a targeting penalty is. We'll be right back on the Out Coaches Podcast. This is Dr. Keith Adams, president of the CKA Safe Project, with a question for you. Are you passionate about supporting student athletes? If so, then become an official member of the CKA Safe Project and make a difference today. With your membership, you'll be able to help us provide essential academic and athletic support to underserved communities nationwide. Join us in empowering student athletes to achieve their full potential, both on and off the field. Together, we can build a brighter future through education and sports. Visit ckasafeproject.org and choose your membership level now. $25 is a bronze level membership, $50 is a silver level membership, and $100 is a gold level membership. Be a part of the change. Become a member of the CKA Safe Project today. Welcome back to the Odd Coaches Podcast in segment 3. Let's get some quick hitters here. And before we start complaining about officiating, bye love. All 4 teams who earned a bye took an L. But is that really a big deal? So one of the things I wanted to ask the panel, and I'll start with Will, do we care about the bye? Should we change the format? Should we have 16 and no buys? What do you think, Will? Because that was a lot of conversation about the bye and had nothing to do with how bad like your team actually was.
Oh yeah, well I think when you win a conference in your conference championship, you should be you guarantee entry into the playoff. But with that said, it should be reseeded because like you said, it doesn't make sense sometimes to put these teams up and say, well, we got them in, but what are we gaining for this? People are boring. People are watching the Duke Mayo Bowl again by a 53-6 game. But yeah, I think you just reseed it. It doesn't make a difference. I think the playoff kind of shaped out with the best teams that it did. That's how it was. I don't know if kids. I don't know what to say. Kids. I guess they are kids. I don't know if they really kind of understand the bye week kind of thing to stay focused, to stay locked in. I always said for years, even when they had the bowl championship, these kids would have like 30 days off. I mean, or like 20 days off or something. These kids are amateurs. A lot of them can't ramp it up when it's time to. I mean, you have a couple guys like Texas and Oklahoma, Oklahoma's, Ohio State's can say, okay, game time, let's go. But a lot of kids are like, man, I've been eating, I've been hanging out with my buddies, I've been drinking, partying, conference championship, free time. So I think that kind of hurts these college teams a lot more. Whereas if you look at like NFL pros, guys get healthy, guys learn the playbook, guys keep that edge, they find a different way. So yeah, I think when you have teams like Arizona State that came in hot, we have team like SMU that came in hot, Boise in a little bit that was hot. It benefits them to keep going, keep that routine going so that they're hot. Once they lose that week, 2 week off, 3 week off, then you have to turn the crank engine again up and see if can you go as hot as it was. So yeah, I agree. I think, the better teams would have probably succeeded. But rest doesn't work for everybody, especially when you're younger. So.
All right, Mike, is it a bunch of belly aching or is there something to the rest versus rust argument?
So in 2023 in Major League Baseball, the two teams that got a bye lost in their second round or first round. And everyone said, oh, the bye. This year they played in the World Series. Right? So it mattered this year. Doesn't mean anything next year. Every year's different. Guess what? The teams that got the bye that 2 years ago in baseball, they weren't as good. They just got the bye. This year was the Yankees and the Dodgers. Same thing here. College football, maybe the four teams that got the bye just weren't, or the two teams that got the bye weren't as good. That happens. Every year's different. We can't overreact to 1 year. You got to let this thing play out a couple of years. Then you go and make changes. But if you make changes every single year, you're basically a bad NFL owner who's just overreacting to anything. Let this thing play out. Then look back after you have data and go, okay, you know what? Maybe the top four teams should be who we think the top four teams are, not just go by championships and this. Do that, but wait a couple years, see how it plays out. That's how I would do it. I think you can't make decisions off of a system you changed 5 seconds ago.
I love educators. Robert, take us out with this question. Rust, or, y'all really weren't that daggone good. That's kind of where I am. You were good, but okay, it's the body's fault that your quarterback stinks.
I tend to agree with Mike. I mean, I don't think the bye matters. I really don't. Get 12 teams in, seed them where you seed them. If the four highest rated conference champions are 1 through 4, then that's who they are. Because the vast majority of the time, it's going to be SEC, Big Ten 1 and 2, Big Ten, ACC 3 and 4, whoever else is where they are, right? Vast majority of the time, that's what it's going to be anyway. Just, it doesn't matter. And I think that coaches, I think coaches and analysts definitely put way too much stock into this whole rest versus rust and routines and all that stuff. You can schedule the heck out of 20-year-old kids, but you can't control them all the time. And what they do on their own time is going to be what they do on their own time. And it just is what it is. I think there's way too much conversation being had about this kind of stuff. Just line up and play. Just play. You're in. You had an opportunity. Just play.
Yeah, and on that, when Will played for me, we got buys because we won, and there was a time we went 7 days without playing. And as Robert said, I need to keep them on a structure, and will tell you that sometimes they fought structure. So what we did was we had mock scrimmages, we did all types of things. We brought in teams to play against us from other districts and all types of practice type things that were legal but highly different from other folks. We traveled and played on college courts. It wasn't recruitment. It was we rented the gym, and you do things to keep the sharpness. So yeah, I'm like you guys. Rest, just go play. All right. So the standard is the standard. Big 12 Commissioner Brett Yormark is calling for more consistency and determine what constitutes a targeting penalty after a no call was made on Texas during the Arizona State game. It was all over the internet. It was all over news media outlets. It was a lot of conversation about why have the rule if you're not going to interpret it the right way. So we're clearing out space for our favorite administrator, Robert Abney, to instruct and inform the country. Robert, you have the floor, sir. Talk to us about targeting.
Okay. So first of all, let's say a couple of things. Number one is the vast majority of the time when you have officials who call targeting, who call targeting in games, there is no replay. So you have to make sure you get it right. In NCAA Division I football, every single targeting call, whether it's made on the field or whether it's made by replay, it's a reviewed play. So it's not just the folks on the field who make the call. There was no flag on the field for targeting on this play. It's really hard to call. That's the first thing I'm going to say. So when you have targeting, there's as an official, there's a checklist you kind of go through. The first thing is, okay, was the contact with the crown of the helmet? Okay, and the crown of the helmet is the 6 inches at the top of the helmet. So basically, to have targeting with the crown of the helmet, guy has to put his head down. Okay, so on this play, that was clear that isn't what happened, right? Had his face mask up, hit the other guy in the face. So the next question you go to is this a defenseless player? And was the contact forcible contact to the head or neck area? Well, it's definitely forcible contact to the head or neck. That's clear. Defenseless player, there's a list of defenseless players in the rule book, and one of the people on that list is a receiver attempting to catch a pass who hasn't yet made a football move. Okay, so now we have that, right? The other piece of targeting is you have to have what's called an indicator. And if you don't have an indicator, you don't have targeting. You can't have targeting if you don't have an indicator. You can have a personal foul, but you can't have targeting. And the indicators are, first you have to have a crouch. Basically, a player squats down and then launches. Basically feet leave the ground to use, as an upward thrust, forward thrust, using their helmet, shoulder pad, elbow, forearm to make contact in the head or neck area. The other two indicators, one is leading with the helmet, shoulder, forearm, fist, hand, elbow to attack with forcible contact, the head or neck area. And the last one is lowering the head. So when I saw the play, my initial response was, oh yeah, that's targeting. And when they reviewed it, my guess is, and I don't know, but the replay officials are from the replay officials on this game were from the Big Ten, just like the referee. And they go through all kinds of training for this stuff. My feeling is that they did not feel like he led with his helmet in an attack. The contact was with the helmet, but he didn't lead with his helmet. Okay. Now, I don't know if that's what they thought. I've talked to all kinds of people who say, oh, yeah, this is targeting. I have talked to all kinds of people who said, oh, yeah, there was no indicator. And in the end, the replay officials called it what they called it. And Brett Yormark is doing what he's supposed to do because he's the head of the Big 12 conference and he's advocating for a school in his conference that he feels got the short end of the stick. I guarantee you in the offseason, there will be lots of discussion on the targeting rule and how to better enforce it and how to better call it. But that was a really close play. And if they're calling it not targeting, that is as close to targeting as a non-targeting call can be.
I love it because that's what this show's supposed to do. There was a lot of noise, a lot of this, a lot of that. So in the group chat, Robert was kind of explaining this to us, and I'm like, hey, are you going to be on this week? So let's him explain it to our audience as well. So our final topic, Mike King, the punter, Louisville's punter, opted out of the Sun Bowl because the Cardinals NIL collective did not pay money promised to him in September. We have talked about this all year long. Mike, what are we doing? Tell me how we're feeling about not just the punter, but the UNLV quarterback, the Florida State basketball players. What's going on, Mike?
I mean, I hate the system, but I'll be on the side of the players. You promised me money. You're not going to give me money. And then you want me to play in your bowl game to help you? No, can't say what I want to say, but insert like
out of here.
Insert bleep here. Are you kidding me? Like, why would he play? And he's a punter. How much money are we talking? They're not giving him millions.
Yeah, right.
Find the $5,000, give him his money, and he'll punt for you. But otherwise, why am I helping you? Bye.
Wilcott, the punter.
Yeah. Yeah, you owe me money. It could be 2 pairs of Jordans. It could be a dinner at Shoney's. You pay me. Pay me because you made a lot. But the worst thing is stop doing these negotiations with a handshake at a restaurant. Come on. If somebody owes you money, get it in writing. There should none of this, well, we're going to take care of it kind of thing. That's no. I get it. That's how it worked because the NCAA and colleges were doing things under the table. But now it's openly. There should be no reasons anyone having any sort of deal, negotiation, contracts, agreements, anything like that. That's not in paper. So it's unfortunate that the printer Brady Hodges is going to have to, miss the bowl game, and I think he should because he probably was owed this money. But if you can't prove it, then it doesn't matter. And I'm sure, like you said, Coach, they're not like crying. They're not like, oh, Joe, what are we gonna do? This is not the starting quarterback. It's the punter. I'm sure they have another kid in the. What happened?
Where are you going to Shoney's?
Yeah,
Dinner at Shoney's. I don't got any Shoney's near me. You go to Shoney's.
That's where they have. That's where they have the sketchy. That's where they have the sketchy restaurants where you make the deals in the middle of nowhere.
I've only been to one in West Virginia. I don't have any near me.
We're talking about Louisville.
Okay.
Beef Brady's. Yeah, there you go.
Okay,
I'm sure
Robert, save us.
No,
punter.
Hey, what did you think with all of this? What did you think was going to happen? What did you think was going to happen? You didn't have a plan to regulate it. And we opened the box. And now here we are. And sooner rather than later, first of all, the kids are all going to figure out, hey, put it in writing, because there are people out there who are agents who are going to jump on this stuff. Hey, I'm going to make sure you get your money because we're going to have a contract and all this stuff. So there's going to be that. And somebody, probably not the NCAA, somebody at some point is going to say, this is crazy. We need a framework. And they'll come up with a framework with contracts.
And the courts will say no.
And what we will have is semi-professional, and I say semi-professional since they're still representing universities, but we're going to have semi-professional athletes representing universities, and that's where we're going.
Well, the game went on.
Do college players get W-9s?
Stop it.
We get W-9s, right? Technically, they're contractors. You know what I'm saying? Like, technically, every year you get a W-9. Maybe I'm going beyond myself.
Man, I do not know. As Robert said, they have no regulations, but on the field, Louisville had a punter and they punted, just like UNLV had a quarterback, just like Tulsa football kept on playing, and I don't think Florida State missed any games last year. So we need structure, which are just boundaries. What are the rules of engagement? We need discipline, which are accountability measures. How are we going to hold people accountable? And we need support, education, how taxes work, all of these things. And if I'm not mistaken, I didn't put it in the show notes, but VCU, Virginia Commonwealth University, will actually directly pay players next year. So maybe they will get a W-9. Mike, final thoughts on all of this is going on, CFP playoff, paying players, anything you want to close out?
I'll close out with Jalen Milroe is going pro. I'm not sure, but like, remember when Lamar came out and everyone was like, well, he's not an NFL quarterback, and that's what Jalen Milroe is getting. But he runs 4.3. And no one, like, no quarterback, even Lamar doesn't run as fast as Jalen Milroe runs. And he's got arm talent. He's going to take some time, but I feel like of all the quarterbacks,
use Lamar Jackson's name with Jalen Milroe.
I disagree.
No way.
Coming out of college, Lamar
way.
was an end of first round, beginning of second round quarterback.
No way.
You're looking at Lamar now. You're not thinking of Lamar.
No. I mean, he was a Heisman. He was a Heisman winner.
Yeah.
He won the Heisman.
He was, and no one wanted him in and 31 teams said no. He was a Heisman winner.
Look,
and 31 teams said no.
I'm not gonna do that. I watched a lot, and you did too, Lamar Jackson. And I did not see that maybe in small sprints, like little stuff, like, oh man, that guy. And then
at Louisville, did you see this? You didn't. No one did. If you did, the Commanders would have taken him, just like the Giants and all the other teams said. I'm telling you, he's probably gonna be terrible, but
I wouldn't say that. I think he's gonna be a combine hero.
4.3 I think he's gonna be a big arm, and he's got size.
He's gonna be worse than Anthony Richardson.
Ouch. Okay, so that's Will's take at the end. Robert, any thoughts on the football playoffs or any of this foolishness before we wrap up?
I'm just gonna tonight. I'm gonna watch a Division III national championship. Sunday night, I'm watching the Division III national championship. It's down in Houston. As always, I'm watching the officials. I don't care who wins the game. On Monday, I'm going to University of Houston. I'm going to see University of Houston and TCU play basketball, and and follow the news and see what we get, right?
Take some picks. All right, so as we wrap up, we've got our college football playoffs. It's coming on Thursday as this show comes out. Penn State, Notre Dame is a big deal. So we hope for a good game. Kind of think Notre Dame should win, but Penn State has better talent, and that's going to happen in the group chat saying, nah, you keep trusting that Franklin guy. And I think Ohio State's going to beat Texas. I think Steve Sarkisian in these big games tend to not play well. And as a coach, I've been where Ryan Day is, where I have lost games I'm supposed to win, and there's a little too much chatter, and the players are mad, and the coaches are mad, and let's go get them. And there was a team we lost to twice Will's senior year that we shouldn't have lost to, and I'll take blame for it. And the last time we played them in the playoff, we boat raced them. So I'm kind of thinking Ohio State's going to do that. I'm rooting for an Ohio State-Penn State final only because the SEC talks a little too much trash. And then, as Mike said earlier in the show, Ohio State's going to kill Penn State, and everybody's going to scream the rest of the offseason about how bad the playoffs were, and they're the ones that wrote the rules. So, again, it's your fault. That's why I don't feel bad. So, on behalf of our Cavalcade of Stars, I'm Dr. Keith Adams saying thank you for listening and or watching the Odd Coaches podcast, and we'll see you on the sidelines. Until next time, take care.
The Odd Coaches podcast is sponsored by the CKA Save Project. The CKA Save Project is an industry leader in providing student-athlete academic and athletic support. From assessing student-athletes' academic and athletic skills, to measuring and monitoring student-athlete academic progress, to improving student-athlete time management and organizational skills, the CKA Save Project provides wraparound services for student-athletes from middle school through college. For more information, visit us on the web at www.ckasaveproject.org or schedule a free consultation with Dr. Keith Adams by emailing cka@ckasaveproject.org. We hope you enjoyed today's show. The Odd Coaches podcast drops new episodes every Tuesday through Friday on most weeks. Make sure you subscribe to the Odd Coaches podcast on Apple Music, iHeartRadio, Podbean, Spotify, and YouTube. Follow the Odd Coaches podcast on Twitter and Instagram at Odd Coaches. Follow Dr. Adams on Twitter and Instagram at CKA Save Project. In addition, follow Coach Mike Francis on Twitter and Instagram at Coach Franchise, spelled Coach FRANCHIZE. For more information about the CKA Save Project, please visit them on the web at www.ckasaveproject.org. See you next time on the Odd Coaches podcast.